So, Josh, do you think we need to show people the game?
Yeah.
Yeah? Should we have a look? Oh, Josh is dead.
Well, that sucks.
Right, now, as we looked at Starbird and Big Trap the other week, it got me thinking.
Oh God, not again.
About 80s electronic arcade games, tabletop games. And this got me thinking about one of my other favourite games of that particular era, and that was the incredible
Astro Wars.
Astro Wars by Grandstand. A lot of people had this.
Yeah. So, back in the late 70s and early 80s, interest in the video arcades were huge, and loads of kids were pumping 10 pence and, as the Americans call it, quarters.
Probably scamming them off their mums.
If you were in the US, into some of the best video games of the time.
Yeah.
Right? These are the early days of video gaming, so kids had relatively simple games such as Invaders, Galaxian, Scramble, Frogger, Donkey Kong, Pac-Man, etc. And most kids would have loved to have their own versions to play on at home.
That's right, yeah. And that's pretty much what we got with the early video game machines such as the 2600, the Intellivision and the Philips G7000, which is what I had. And many of these early consoles had their own versions of these arcade classics that you're on about. Okay, they were not absolutely brilliant versions on the whole, but they were okay, and that's pretty much all we had back then, because the home consoles always technically lacked behind their arcade cousins, you know?
So, the cost of electronic components and semiconductors were coming down all the time. And the boom for cheap electronic devices really started in Japan.
It always does, yeah.
Companies such as VTech.
VTech? Are they the company that made that thing that you had when you were a baby that went train?
Fire engine!
Train!
CGL, Entex, Mattel, and Tomy and Nintendo started to make affordable electronic games for the Far East markets.
They did, yeah. And the thing is, not many of these games were just not available for sale outside of
Japan.
Typical
Nintendo.
There's the other companies to blame as well.
Okay.
Distribution companies were created to buy stock from Japan and export them to countries all around the world.
Yes.
Now, often these games were renamed and rebranded, actually, and that's why you can sometimes see games that look physically exactly the same, but they have different names. So, for example, Pac-Man can be found in various disguises such as Puck-Man and Munchman and Puck Monsters, etc. And one of these distribution companies here in the UK was responsible for the brand we all know as Grandstand. That beautiful thing there.
Aww.
This company was called Adam Imports, and they had a subsidiary called Adam Leisure. Now, the company was formed way back in 1973.
Well, that's a long time ago.
It is, in Harrogate in Yorkshire. Incidentally, Harrogate is somewhere where my dad got food poisoning once a long time ago.
Anyway.
But I digress. And it was founded by two gentlemen called Chris Rycroft and Les Kenyon. And their business was formed to start distributing products for Hanimex, who made cameras and stuff like that and projectors.
Yeah.
Commodore, never heard of them. And Sinclair, never heard of those guys either.
Anyway, so the brand name Grandstand was formed in the mid-1970s when Adam Impulse started selling a black and white Pong-style TV game made in Japan by VTech.
Fire engine.
No, VTech.
VTech.
So they decided to rename it Adman Grandstand 2000.
They did, yeah.
And wondered whether they were going to get into trouble with the BBC, as their flagship sports programme was also called Grandstand.
Oh, Frank Boff, do you remember him? No, you wouldn't.
Hello, in today's programme we've got horses doing just about everything.
Before you were born.
Who's Frank Boff?
It's a guy that used to present Grandstand on BBC on Saturday mornings.
Did he have funny looking hair?
He had no hair. Now,
with a name like Boff.
Is lovely guy Frank Boff was. Now, many of these early electronic handheld toys were basically LED type games with basic beeps and gameplay, such as our 70s Ramtex one there.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Nick from Vintage Gamer, who gave me that completely broken, but I've managed to fix it up.
The batteries were just...
By the late 70s, companies such as Epoch, again based in Hong Kong, were producing...
VTech!
No, not VTech. Epoch. Were producing small tabletop games with a new type of vacuum tube display called a fluorescent display, which we'll be taking a look at later. The first of these games was called Invader from Space.
It's not
Now, incidentally, that was the UK name for it. So I know a few of my friends had Invader from Space. It was originally called Digitcom Invader.
I think Invader from Space sounds a lot more appealing somehow. So, right.
It does actually. Look, I've got Digitcom Invader.
From the far reaches of man's imagination comes Invader from Space. Arcade action now in your home. Here they come. Can you stop them? Are you fast enough to launch a counterattack? Watch out for that one on the left. Fire! Get that one on the right. Fire! Back to the left. Not in the middle. One is in the yellow zone. Get him. One is in the red zone. Knock him out. The extra large scoreboard shows how well you're doing, and you can speed up the action with 3 levels of play if you dare. Are you good enough to accept the challenge of Invader from Space by Epoch? From Japan's #1 game company, Epoch.
Right. What's that about then?
Invaders from Space, you know.
That's right.
Good game.
Yeah. Sounds better, doesn't it?
The kids loved it, you know.
Yeah.
So Adam Imports in the UK secured the rights to sell and distribute Invader from Space in the UK. And it was a huge hit and sold in the hundreds of thousands in a short space of time.
Kids loved it. They did. We lapped it up, didn't we? In late 1980, a new product was being developed by Epoch in Japan, and it was a prototype. And Chris Rycroft from Adam Leisure was eventually shown the prototype of this new game that they were working on. And this game went on to become one of the most successful electronic toys of the 80s. And this was
the brilliant
Astro Wars.
Now, indeed.
Incidentally, in Japan, it wasn't called Astro Wars, it was called Super Galaxian.
Okay,
because it's very similar to Galaxian. When you see the gameplay later, you'll see that it is very like Galaxian. Yes.
Okay. In June 1981, Astro Wars went on sale for a mere $29.99.
That was a lot of money, you know, in 1981.
Really?
Yeah, in 1981.
And the first order for 150,000 machines sold out very quickly. By December 1981, when you got yours,
yes, I did.
another
actually,
350,000 was sold in the UK alone. And at one point, every single air cargo freighter to leave Tokyo had Astro Wars on board.
That's incredible.
Every single airliner that left
fact.
Tokyo had at least one Astro
had
Wars.
Had a box of Astro Wars on board.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I first saw Astro Wars, this is going back a bit, advertised in the K's catalogue. Do you remember that, guys? The K's catalogue? Before
I do. I
was born.
I meant to say born. You're meant to say was, and I was meant to say born.
I will have to redo that bit.
Okay, yeah.
And I thought it looked absolutely amazing. I love the look of it. It looked like, I don't know, it looked like some kind of like small arcade machine, yeah. And it was on my must-have Christmas present of that year.
Along with Big
everything
Track,
else I wanted. Big Track, Starbird, Philips G7000, Fondue set, His and Hers, folding bicycles, the towels. No, that was a generation game.
Imagine if you got all of those from your parents.
What, in one go?
Yeah. Your parents must have been rich, you know.
No, it just meant that I would have been a spoiled little brat.
Like you are now.
Adam Imports bought the rights to many other machines from other manufacturers, actually. So there was companies such as Tomy, Bandai, VTech, and they rebadged them as Grandstand games. And some of these classics are, pretty much. They got all these games from other manufacturers and they put the Grandstand logo on them. Now, some of these classic games are just wonderful. You've got Scramble, Firefox, Munchman and Caveman, and they're all absolutely brilliant games. Yeah.
Other companies that were very popular at the time were CGL, made Galaxy Invader, Earth Invaders, and a very good version of Frogger.
Yeah, that was nice.
Tony released a very successful 3D range of games that looked like futuristic binoculars, actually, that you held to a face like this, so your arms ached after a while, and featured a cool 3D effect.
Yeah.
These included Thundering Turbos, Sky Fighters, and Sky Attack.
Yeah.
Some of these were very highly sought after today and can fetch some big money if you have one box in good condition.
Now, incidentally, did you know there's even an iPhone app now for Astro Wars? Which is absolutely amazing. So, should we have a poke around inside an Astro Wars and see what we've got there? And let's have a play on a couple of these amazing old machines.
Let's.
Okay, so what we've done, we've taken the lid off Astro Wars. We'll have a quick peek inside it. And what we can see here, in the lid, you can see there's a Fresnel magnifying glass. Can you see that?
Yeah.
And what that does, that makes this screen here look an awful lot bigger than it actually is. So if I zoom in on that. So let's take this cover off here. Ooh. So what we've got inside Astro Wars is very basic actually. Here we've got a fluorescent tube display, and each one of the characters lights up in sequence depending on where the current is passed down these wires. I don't know if you can see those wires there. Can you see those little wires?
Yeah, I can.
Current passes down those, give off electrons, You know what electrons are. And it makes these phosphor-coated little characters light up in sequence.
Okay, that's cool.
Controls are basic. There you go. So there's the control boards. You've got a fire button, select, start,
and
a little left and right joystick. And underneath here, so under this screen here, we have a microprocessor controller. So the controller for the game sits underneath this foam pad. And that's pretty much
it.
All that's inside an Astro Wars. So basically you've got a control board, a fluorescent screen, a joystick and some buttons. Right. Not easy.
Well, it looks difficult.
It is difficult. Especially when I'm playing the game
behind a camera.
Behind a camera. Oh dear. Yeah, so this was Astro Wars, and do you know why the... Oh dear, I'm dead.
You're dead!
I fell into a hole.
Oh no, that's the ET video.
That's the ET video.
Aye, aye, aye.
So it's really difficult to play this, actually, looking through the viewfinder of a camera.
You're looking for the camera to play it?
Yeah, and I've got a headache.
Oh my god.
So this, actually, you can see why it was called Super Galaxian.
Yes.
In Japan.
So can I.
It's very much like
Galaxian.
Galaxian.
How are you doing?
And yes, alright. Got neck ache.
You seem very tense.
My neck's tense.
Just because of the way you're stuff.
Yeah. So this is Astro Wars, and you can see the fluorescent screen on it was absolutely brilliant. It's not LEDs. Oh dear. Right, let's take a look at...
Scramble!
Scramble. So let's have a quick look at this one.
Right, go!
With this one, you get to bomb stuff and shoot stuff. It's a
really?
horizontal game, not a vertical game.
Is it a bit like Nemesis?
It's a horizontal shooter. You've played Scramble, haven't you, on the arcade machine?
Have I?
Yeah. It's that one where you start off with a ship going over the mountain, and you can bomb and shoot.
Oh yes! Oh, Bash died.
I did die. This is phase 2.
Mark 2.
Oh, this was so cool back in the day.
Back in the day.
Back in the day, when all I had, I think I had my Philips G7000 actually when this was out.
Yeah.
And have a look at this one.
What are those high-pitched beeps supposed to mean?
I have no idea.
Beep, 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 beep.
Now you can see the display on this one actually is quite better than the rest because it's got stars and all sorts of stuff. You can see the technology on the display.
Oh god, yeah.
That's Josh's head you can see in the picture.
Sorry.
Let's have a look at this
How
one.
much was in it?
Only a little bit, don't worry.
Wait, you done already?
No.
Oh, you just click start. I was going to say.
It's got like a little picture of a galaxy in the top right and left hand corner, and you can see that it looks a lot more advanced than Astro, and the controls are really sticky. I'm going to have to pull this apart and fix the joystick because I can hardly move it.
Do you want a chestnut?
No thanks.
Okay. Did you die?
I did, that's because the joystick's not working.
Oh, blaming his equipment.
I
That's my thing, that is.
But you can see the fluorescent display is much bigger in this one, and there's a lot more detail in it.
Yeah.
There's flames coming out the back of the ship and all sorts of weird stuff going on. The joystick is ruined.
Baz, stop blaming the controller.
Anyway, there's a quick look.
Back to the shed. Oh, we're in the shed.
We're in the shed. So this is a really noisy, old
game.
handheld electronic game from a company called Ramtex. So it's basically a Space Invaders clone, isn't it, this?
It's difficult. I can't... It's so difficult with this angle. I'm not blaming the controller. Oh, it's lagging. It's lagging.
Oh, is it laggy?
Yeah, it's lagging.
Yeah.
Oh, it's lagging.
Because you get a lot of lag on games like this,
It's lagging. It's lagging.
But that's basically LED screen, isn't it? It's not a fluorescent screen in that one at all.
It's lagging.
It's basically tiny little red dots.
It's lagging.
Oh, you're doing alright. It's just a Space Invaders clone, isn't it, basically? Right, there you go. Astro Wars and Scramble.
Wow.
Brilliant. So,
Great.
my usual question to you. What did you think of Astro Wars? What would you have thought of it as a kid living in that age?
It'd be a bit tense for me.
I think it was a tense time, actually.
Very tense.
Yeah. So, there you go. You get Astro Wars Christmas morning. Forget what you know now about technology and gaming and all that stuff. The only games you could play were literally in the arcades.
Pew, 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 pew,
yeah,
pew, pew,
pew, pew in the arcades. And you're given that on Christmas morning. What do you think of it?
Wow. Epic.
That's it. Epic.
Epic, yeah.
Would you have been pleased with it?
Well, yes, yeah.
I was very pleased with it on Christmas morning until by about 3 o'clock in the
You
afternoon.
dropped it down the stairs.
No, the goddamn batteries ran out. And we didn't have the mains adapter to plug in to play. So me and my mum were playing on it, and the screen
Your
got...
mum?
Yeah, my mum loves Astro Wars. And the screen got duller and duller and duller until we could hardly see anything. And then it started to go erratic and wrong. And I was like, oh, what's wrong with this? And they were Duracell batteries, and they didn't last Christmas Day. So I played it to death on Christmas Day, and I loved it. I thought it was absolutely
But you didn't drop it
wonderful.
down the stairs, did you?
I didn't drop it down the stairs. I tell you what I did do, though.
What'd you do?
I blew it up.
You what?
I blew it up a few years.
Is that the exact one?
No, that's a different one. That's one I got from a thrift store, as they call them.
What's a thrift store?
It's like a second-hand store.
Okay.
Thrift store.
So how did you blow it up?
Oh, this is quite embarrassing, actually.
Go on then.
So I didn't have any batteries for it.
Right.
I didn't have the mains adapter for it.
Right.
And I knew that it took about 6 volts.
Right.
So I got my Scale Electric power supply,
You didn't plug it into it,
which I think was 12 volts is Scale Electric, 12 or 15 volts. And I thought, it'll be all right. So I plugged it in. I switched it on, and it just went, and the screen was really bright. I was like, ooh, that's not good. And it went pop. And I
the
kind of
screen shattered.
I thought, oh my god, my mum's going to go mad. So I kind of put it back under the bed and just went, got on my rally grifter and went for a ride instead. And on that bombshell,
No.
don't forget to thank you very much for watching, as always. We
Don't
do
forget to
appreciate
like
it.
and subscribe.
Please hit like.
Smash it. That's what they all say now. They smash it.
That's a bit down with the kids, isn't it, really?
Smash it, click the bell and everything.
Say hello to us on Facebook. You can find us on Facebook.
We're going to get 30 comments saying, hello, hello, hello.
We're looking at the Game Boy coming up soon, but Josh has got an idea for a show coming up, and that is...
Launch titles for the PlayStation 2.
Ooh, launch titles for the
I love
PS2.
PlayStation
So
2.
I think the first 2 games I got with mine was Time Splitters, which you don't like.
Oh, no, time splitters.
You don't like Time Splitters, do you?
Moving on. So,
Take care, have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and we'll speak to you soon.
bye.
Bye! What we've got there, and let's have a play on a couple of these amazing old machines.
Let's.
Right,
Should we have some pizza?
where's my mouse pointer gone?
Where's the pizza more like?
Hang on, it's a dual screen because I lost my mouse.